Hello everyone, welcome to SEO Explains. On Wednesday this week, all eyes will be on the Supreme Court as it sits to decide the fate of Jammu and Kashmir. 5 judges will assemble to hear the challenges to the abrogation of Article 370 of the Constitution. I'm Gauri Kashyap, and today we'll try and understand the key events that led up to this case. Let's begin with the basics. What is Article 370? This is a constitutional provision that grants special status to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, Article 370 was inserted into the Constitution to accommodate the special conditions in Jammu and Kashmir. When the provision was being debated in the Constituent Assembly, Gopal Swami Iyengar, a member and a strong proponent of the provision, explained that Kashmir was in the middle of a war. The state was in the hands of rebels and enemies, and India was entangled with the United Nations on the Kashmir problem. This provision would act as a transitional arrangement till Jammu and Kashmir could be brought to the level of other states. Over time, of course, Article 370 became a more permanent feature of the Constitution. Now, Article 370 had 3 main ideas at its core. First, India would not make laws in Jammu and Kashmir outside the predetermined scope without the concurrence or the consent of its government. Second, except for Article 1, which declared India as a union of states, and Article 370, no part of the Constitution would apply to Kashmir. If India sought to make any provision in the Constitution to apply to this state, the President would have to do so through an executive order of the Constitution. The idea was that this process would insulate the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir from the influences of the Parliament. Thirdly, Article 370 itself could not be amended or repealed unless the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir consented to it. In 1952, when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru addressed the Parliament, he said, "It does not matter what the Constitution says. If the people of Kashmir do not want it, India would not force herself upon the people of the state." In the same year, during the 4th session of the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly, its Prime Minister Sheikh Abdullah remarked that the ultimate source of sovereignty resides in the people. Constitution framers believed that it is up to the people of Kashmir, through this, that is, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, to transfer more powers for mutual advantage to the custody of the Union Centre. This framework, envisaged by the Constituent Assembly members, including Jawaharlal Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah, ensured that no laws were made in the state that did not have the consent of its own people, made known through the government of Jammu and Kashmir. Since then, of course, various presidential orders have increased the hold of the Parliament over Jammu and Kashmir. But in the last 2 decades, the scenario in Jammu and Kashmir has shifted significantly under the rule of the Bharatiya Janata Party. The abrogation of Article 370, or the repeal of Article 370, has been on the BJP's agenda since 2009. They had promised the repeal of Article 370 in its 2009, 2014 and 19 election manifestos, convinced that Article 370 poses a psychological barrier for the full integration of the people of Jammu and Kashmir with the national mainstream. Through 4 decisive steps by the President, from December 2018 to August 2019, the special status awarded to the most disputed region in India was completely dismantled. In December 2018, under Article 356 of the Constitution, the President's rule was imposed on Jammu and Kashmir, which resulted in the replacement of the Governor and the state legislature by the President and the Parliament. On August 5, 2019, another presidential order, among other things, amended Article 367. This concerns the interpretation of the Constitution. Specifically, it replaced the words Constituent Assembly in Article 370 with Legislative Assembly. As you'll remember, to repeal Article 370, the consent of Jammu and Kashmir's Constituent Assembly was crucial. Now that Jammu and Kashmir had been brought under the President's rule, the need for the consent of the Constituent Assembly read to be the consent of the Legislative Assembly. Under the President's rule, the Legislative Assembly was none other than the Parliament. This vested the power to repeal Article 370 squarely within the BJP-led government. The very next day, with the recommendation of both houses of the Parliament, the President issued another order, and Article 370 was repealed. The 4th and final step to changing the landscape of Jammu and Kashmir was the Reorganization Act, which stripped the state of its statehood and divided Jammu and Kashmir into 2 union categories. Coming back to present day, the Supreme Court is going to start hearing the challenge to the abrogation of 370 on August 2nd. While large constitutional questions will undergo rigorous debate, The will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir hangs in the balance. We at SEO will be attending the hearings to bring the stories of the court to you. Make sure to visit seobserver.in for concise and clear reports on each day's hearings and follow us on Twitter for live updates. Thank you for watching SEO Explains.